Okay guys, well this is basically my shed toolbox or my camp toolbox. Same one I kept in the wall tent. Same one I've talked about I think in past videos, but this is basically just your tool chest that you keep of everything that you might need tool wise around the camp, the cabin, whatever the case may be in a more long-term camp situation. And so I've got a fleshing knife in here, and a fleshing knife is not a sharp knife. It's for pushing the fat and the excess flesh off of a hide. It does have one beveled edge, but it doesn't come down to a sharp edge necessarily. But they do get dull and beat up over time and a little bit rusted. And so what I'm going to do with this one is I'm just going to get in here real quick. I've got a file in here as well that I keep in here. And I'm just going to come in here and clean this edge up real fast on this thing. And I'm cleaning it up more from the back side than from the front side. And that's just going to help it to slide along the flesh better, not grab things. If there's any gunk or rust on there, you kind of want to get that cleaned off. It doesn't have to be a long, tedious process. Like I said, you're not trying to make a sharp blade out of this thing. That's the last thing you want in a fleshing knife, is for that thing to be sharp. So I'm just kind of knocking any heavy rust off of it that might have accumulated over the last year or anything like that. Shining it up a little bit and calling it good. Now we're ready to go out and flesh king with this bad boy. Okay, so for fleshing, we really just need a fleshing board. This one's just made out of hardwood. You can make this yourself. It's not too difficult, and you can use the same board for most of your coons and things, but you may want smaller boards for smaller animals like mink and muskrat. This apron is made out of rubber roofing. I made this thing on a video probably, I don't know, it had to have been a couple of years ago. I did a video on making this. I just cut it out of rubber roofing and stamped grommets into it, and I just used paracord to tie it with, and then you're going to need your fleshing knife. So now this coon has been sitting longer than it should. It's been sitting in 2 days. Should have only really sat like 1 day. But what that does is it allows all this fat to solidify. And as it solidifies, it makes it a lot easier really in the long run to get it off of the hide. So we want to turn this hide back inside out again now, the way it was. And then slide it over this board just like this. And the reason we've got this apron on is so that we can lean against this thing and push against it without getting this stuff all over our clothes. Now the fleshing knife, you can use it very much like a draw knife or a push knife with the bevel side down and the bevel side up. And you'll find that different areas of the hide are going to work different for you. But all you're going to do is start pushing that stuff off of there, just like this. And you can start from the top and work your way down. You're going to find that slicing motions work better going down like this. But you're also going to have areas that are thin on the hide, and you've got to be careful of. If you get to areas like in the center where you're bumping over those legs like that, you're just going to have to move the hide to the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the majority of some of this real quick. You want to adjust this thing to you. This thing's a little bit high right now for me. I had a student on this thing, so I'm going to move it a little bit to get it at a different angle for me, so that this thing's not poking me clear up here in the top of my chest. It's more down here at my sternum. Okay, the other thing I want to show you while we're out here is you can buy these fleshing knives like this with plastic handles on them right off our website, and these are really, really good fleshing knives. This is a very old school one here, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. It'll work just fine for you. But if you're wanting something that's a little less maintenance, doesn't necessarily have wooden handles on it that you've got to worry about keeping oiled up, then you can buy the plastic. They come in different lengths, so you just decide that for yourself. This one's a little short for a good sized coon. Something like this is going to give you more reach. Across like this on the hide. Again, once you get down here to the bottom, you can just push that stuff off. You're really going to want to get this good and clean. Right now I'm just kind of taking the major stuff off first, and then I'm coming back. Get up here around the back of the neck, things like that. It'll get a little more difficult in those areas to get some of that off of there. You got to be careful when you get down around this tail that you don't end up taking that tail off while you're doing it. So you just kind of got to go to the side of that. If you got a little piece of meat connected, yank it off. But you can always come back in here, and I always like to have a neck knife on me when I'm doing this stuff, just to kind of trim some of this off that's not wanting to come off with the knife, with the fleshing knife. And it's better to leave a little extra meat on here if you're selling this hide than to come in here and accidentally cut a hole in the hide. Any more holes you've already got from shooting it. You're allowed a couple of holes in there with no knockoffs, but once you start knocking big holes in the hide, you're gonna have a problem. And so if you've got some stubborn areas that aren't coming off with the fleshing knife, you're better off cutting those off with a knife than just to keep raking over it with that fleshing knife and taking a chance on cutting a hole in it. The areas up here around the shoulders, the back of the neck and that kind of stuff, that stuff's not going to come off very easy anyway, and you don't even need to worry about it. Anything above the shoulders here, on the back of the neck and down, you don't have to worry about too much. Get it as thin as you can, but you're going to have some muscle up there you're not going to get off. Don't worry about that. Real quick, I want to show you. You can see what that fat from that raccoon's doing to that knife handle. It's just soaking that stuff up. And so this stuff's great for any tools that you have that have wooden handles on them, from your axes to your knives, whatever the case may be. This is a great dressing, and I love using wooden tools around this stuff because it just makes the handles so much nicer over time.